Tarzan's Revenge from 1938 featured actor Glenn Morris as the Lord of the Jungle. I wonder sometimes if I will ever be able to review every variation of Tarzan film featuring a different actor, but oh heck, I'll give it a try. Well, this film opens up in Africa. Nevin Potter, played by actor George Meeker, is on a steamship, and he's just out, firing his rifle at some of the local animals and hits an alligator and sends that thing flying. Well, his fiance, Eleanor Reed, played by actress Eleanor Holm, shows up to congratulate him on, all of his shooting. So there's no Jane in this film, only Eleanor. Well, whatever. They go to meet with Pop, Roger Reed, who's played by actor George Barbier, who's in having a smoke. Mrs. Reed, his wife, actress Hedda Hopper, is there as well for comic relief, as, wouldn't you know it, all of that African country is causing her to sneeze pretty much through the whole film. Well, there's this large sultan character, Alla Bey, played by C. Henry Gordon. He's nearby, and he's watching a girl in his room do a dancing number because, it's so spicy, these pre-code films. Well, he sees Eleanor and sends her a gem, but she isn't interested in joining his harem and sends it back to him. But we shall see as the film progresses if Alla Bey is willing to take this rejection. Well, soon there's a big African expedition with Nevin, Eleanor, and their crew. I guess they wanted to go out to capture some wild animals or something, even though Nevin spends a lot of the film just shooting them. And the character Alla Bey and his entourage, they follow along as well. He's in his big, goofy elephant ride, of course. And we cut to a lot of footage of animals playing with silly, happy music to go along with it. And soon we get to our hero, Tarzan, played here by Glenn Morris, who's just chilling in a tree. The explorers notice some elephants, while Tarzan is busy taking a swim. And he does a lot of swimming in this film. And then he hops out and helps Cheetah with opening a coconut, and the two of them have a snack. Meanwhile, the Indiana Jones-style line moves across the Africa map as the explorers move deeper inland. But soon, a cheetah appears to be moving in on their group. Tarzan sees it and gives his horrifying cry that's nothing like the Johnny Weissmuller version and scares it off.
Those confounded mosquitoes would stop biting.
I just got 3 at one time.
Well, Nevin and Eleanor try to cross a log, and Eleanor falls into some mud, comedic effect and so on. And Nevin is basically a big jerk here and says, how did you manage to do that? That kind of thing. And to make matters worse, he leaves to go get some help, leaving her stranded in the mud. Now, meanwhile, Tarzan and Cheetah swing in, and Tarzan gestures to her, doing kind of this Harpo Marx whistle thing that kind of made me laugh.
Who are you?
Now, the last Tarzan film I watched, The New Adventures of Tarzan from 1935, featured actor Bruce Bennett as a more articulate Tarzan. He would actually talk and communicate, say things like, "I don't quite understand. What is your interest in the jungle goddess?" Stuff like that. And I actually found I preferred the articulate Tarzan. But alas, here in this film, we're back to grunts and me Tarzan, that type of stuff again. I honestly think that Tarzan in this film had 3 words through the entirety of the film. Well, he has this brief introduction with Eleanor, gets her out of the mud, there's a playful slapping of one another, and then back Eleanor goes into the mud, to Tarzan's great amusement. Well, Nevin finally shows up with some help and some rope, and Tarzan has split. And Eleanor explains to Nevin that there's this man in the woods that rescued her, but no one believes her. No one believes in this mysterious jungle man. Well, on the way back to camp, they find some adorable lion cubs that they pick up to bring with them. Oh, I don't know if that's a good idea, Eleanor. Well, that night, the lioness is looking around for her cubs. And meanwhile, the character Olaf, who was one of the guides, is played by actor Joe Sawyer, an actor I saw recently in the movie Black Legion with Humphrey Bogart. Well, his character is kind of devious, and he sneaks out at night to meet with actor Blue Washington, who the Internet Movie Database describes his role and his name only as bearer bringing Olaf poison darts. Oh, well, all right. Okay, I guess he didn't have a name. But anyhow, he gets some poison darts from him. And the next day, Olaf tells Roger Reed that they need to move the camp, and he agrees. So this Olaf character is a little sketchy. We're not sure what his story is, but they move on. And that night, Eleanor is taking care of the adorable lion cubs. But come on, Eleanor, you really need to give them back to the mother before there's trouble. And soon enough, the lioness attacks. But Tarzan is there, and with his heroic music, he fights off the lioness. Yay, Tarzan! And soon the lioness is gone, but Cheetah sticks around to play with the salt and pepper shakers at the camp, which makes him sneeze. Silly fellow. And they capture him and put him in a cage. Well, at least that Nevin character didn't shoot him, so there's that. Well, Tarzan, meanwhile, carefully returns the cubs to the lioness, and later returns to free Cheetah as well. And they find out at the camp about this, and they go to look for Tarzan. Nevin is ready to shoot him, of course. Eleanor goes walking by herself, and why does she look like she's dressed like she's not an explorer and more like a tennis pro? Well, whatever. Tarzan finds her, sneaks up on her, and carries her away. And they go and have a nice swim together, while the rest of the explorers are panicking and wondering where she is. They find her the next day, and she tells them that Tarzan ran off, to keep him safe. She's kind of covering his secret identity thing. The explorers and that Nevin character, they really want to find him because, Nevin wants to shoot him. Well, meanwhile, Alla Bey from earlier in the film gives orders to some of his natives to go and capture the girl. Tarzan, meanwhile, uses some tree bark to heal an injured deer, one that Nevin had shot. The explorers stop for the day to set up camp, and Eleanor and Nevin go for a swim. But alas, she is soon captured by some natives who bring her back to Alla Bey. Cheetah goes to get Tarzan and speaks to him in an odd series of noises. And Tarzan heads to the rescue, getting into a fight with a bunch of the natives. Eleanor, meanwhile, is brought to Alla Bey's palace, and honestly, the set looks really good here, complete with the synchronized dancing and music, a very Bubsy Berkeley style. Will she be captured and forced to live in his harem? Can Tarzan defeat the natives and make it there to rescue her? Will Nevin shoot every living animal in sight? Well, you've got to watch the ending to see for yourself. So, some closing thoughts on this one. This was an enjoyable Tarzan film. Glenn Morris did a fine job here as Tarzan. And he's got the right build and appearance and so on. So really no complaints. Apparently he was the Olympic decathlon champion in the 1936 Olympics. The Hitler Olympics from way back then. And this was his first film. Eleanor Holm also did a fine job as well as the character Eleanor. And she too was an Olympic swimmer. And, you can kind of see that with some of the synchronized swimming bits that they did together. And, watching her here, maybe it's just me, but I thought she kind of resembled a young Famke Janssen, the actress from GoldenEye. Maybe it's just me. Researching the film, I learned that after MGM had so much trouble making previous Tarzan films, Tarzan Escapes, with Johnny Weissmuller, for instance, producers Saul Lesser made Burroughs a great offer for the rights to the character. Namely, they gave him a sum of money at the start of production, and also a share in the profits. Sounds like a pretty good deal. If only my books could get deals like that. Well, also interesting is that apparently Saul Lesser wanted baseball legend Lou Gehrig as Tarzan, but decided against it after seeing that his legs were, quote, functional rather than decorative. Well, all right. Well, after the film's release, exhibitors and audience didn't really accept anyone other than Johnny Weissmuller as Tarzan. I can get it. So Saul Lesser dropped his plans to continue the series and sold 3 Burroughs scripts to MGM so that they can make Tarzan films with Johnny Weissmuller. They did have a book based on the film called Tarzan's Revenge that was written by Burroughs, and it was published in 1938. Now note, I watched the entire film, and I have no idea what exactly Tarzan was getting revenge for. There really wasn't any theme in the film there whatsoever. Maybe Nevin shooting the deer? I don't know. And I have to be honest, this was probably my least favorite Tarzan film so far. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the film. And, here's the thing. I can't fault the production. Looks like it's very well made. There's plenty of enjoyable music through the film as well. And Glenn Morris, he does a decent job as Tarzan. I mean, he looks right, even if he only utters about 3 words in the entire film. It just feels like the story is so completely basic, and Tarzan just wasn't in the film enough. I wouldn't call it a bad film. Just a less than favorite Tarzan film so far. I mean, odd as it sounds, I think I lean more toward the articulate Bruce Bennett version of Tarzan, but we shall see. Like I said at the beginning, I'm going to try to get through more of the Tarzan films eventually. And before I wrap up, a quick spoiler. It was interesting to me as well. At the end of the film, we see a scene where Tarzan cuts a rope bridge, one way up high in a canyon with the river far below, and it causes some of the natives to go falling down into the water to be eaten by alligators. Very Indiana Jones Temple of Doom to me, and I wonder if George Lucas was a fan of this film. Also kind of came to mind when you saw the African map with the little path being drawn on it, Who knows, maybe this inspired him many years ago. Well, that's Tarzan's Revenge from 1938. It's a fun Tarzan film and it's worth checking out.